mankind was created to carry the glory of God. That was our original purpose. When God created us, He said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." And so the Bible says He created mankind, male and female, in His image and likeness. He created them. Come on. Now, of course, Adam and Eve, they're hanging out in the garden by the one tree that they're not supposed to eat from. And the serpent shows up and says, "Did God really say?" And one of the things the serpent says to them is, God knows if you eat this fruit, you're not going to die. He knows if you eat this fruit, then you'll be like Him. So what just happened? He just convinced a couple of people who are already in the image and likeness of God that they've got to do something in their own strength to become like God. That's not good. And so what do? They eat the fruit. And in that moment, shame enters their lives. Now, the Bible says they did become like God in one way, and a way you could describe it is they lost the innocence of not even knowing what good and evil were. But at what cost? Shame enters their lives. Is there any shame in God? No. And so in their effort to become more like God, technically they became unlike Him, and from that point forward, the image of God in their lives was only skin deep. They weren't like Him anymore. And so there's this wrestling with God all throughout the Old Testament until Jesus shows up on the scene. And Hebrews 1:3 says that Jesus is the image of the invisible... Oh, that's not the one. There is one that says Jesus is the image of the invisible God. Hebrews 1:3 says that Jesus is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of His being. The radiance of God's glory, and another version says the express image of God. Glory, image. Here's Jesus. He says, as we talked about last time, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Right? I only do what I see my Father doing. Jesus perfectly reveals the Father in everything He says, everything He does when He walks this earth, and even continuing now as He rules and reigns in heaven. This is a big deal. So, John 14:9, anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. Image and glory, tightly connected. Sin is falling short of what you were made for. Romans 3:23 says, right? It says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. You were created for glory. Sin is anything short of what you were designed for. A lot of us, we think about sin as being this list of rules of do's and don'ts, and if I can just, keep up with that list of rules, then I'll be okay. But that's what the Old Testament was, and we weren't okay. Jesus shows up on the scene. He says, all that list of rules and all that, I get to write that on your heart, and now you become a new creation. You become someone who just doesn't do the don'ts, someone who just does the do's, right? This is just who you are. You've been transformed. So now when I read the law, I go back through there. The law didn't go away. Jesus said I didn't come to fulfill the law, or to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And so the law didn't go away, but what it did was it was written on our hearts. So now when I read something like you shall not lie, I don't sit there going, oh great, I got to remember, don't lie, don't lie, don't lie. Because when we do that, what happens? We end up, saying things. When you're sin conscious, when all you're doing is focused on the sin, guess what? You reproduce what you behold. But when you fix your eyes on Jesus and you're like, He's an honest person who never lies. It's impossible for God to lie, the Bible says. If I no longer live and He lives in me, then I don't lie. So when I read a verse that says, you shall not lie, I just go, thank you, Jesus, that you've transformed me into an honest person who doesn't lie. I'm a new creation. When I read, you shall not commit adultery, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for transforming me into a faithful person, just as you're faithful to your bride. I'm a new creation in you, and you get to live your faithfulness through me. And I just rest in who He is. It changes everything. The times when sinful activity comes out of my life is always directly correlated to times when I've forgotten to behold Him and I've gotten my eyes back on the things of this world.